Thank you for coming, Mr. Kerry. The military knows more than anybody the impact that climate change is going to have on this planet. The massive refugee problem just from the typhoon in the Philippines. We could name many, many things. The military, their threat assessment says that climate change may be more severe of a problem than nuclear war because it's inevitable. Nuclear war is not.
Correct.
Why a government that claims to be Democratic and Republican cannot grasp this concept?
Do you think the military gets it in a way that...
The military absolutely gets it.
They're transforming the bases all over this
country. The military
country.
has had an office in the Pentagon specifically dedicated to this. I don't know if it got wiped out in the change, but I personally, as Secretary of State, I went to Norfolk, Virginia, which is our largest naval base in the world, and I was briefed by the commander of the base, the admiral in charge of the East Coast, and the ship's captains there on all the steps that they are taking now to deal with climate. And one of the problems they have are the increased flooding actually already is happening, and it prevents personnel from getting to the base if they have to move out in an emergency or something. So absolutely, definitively, they're focused on it. Now, let me take a moment to go beyond your question just to share why, and it was part of the answer to your question, but you're right, time compresses us. The reason I am optimistic, notwithstanding, Donald Trump's pulling out of the agreement hurts us. It hurts us because American leadership has retrenched, and other leaders are now saying, well, you know, if the United States isn't pushing, maybe we don't have to push. So the momentum that we tried to create out of Paris has been diminished. But 38 states in our great nation have passed renewable portfolio laws. And those 38 states, 29 of them are mandatory, the 8 of them are voluntary, or 8 or 9 of them are voluntary. So that leaves you with 80% of American population in those 38 states. That's why I say to people, Donald Trump may have pulled out, but the American people are staying in, because mayors all over our country are pushing zoning that deals with climate, building codes. A lot of emissions come out of buildings. Transportation is enormously important. Recycling important. So all of these things help reduce our emissions. And for the life of me, folks, I mean, I try not to be partisan. I really do. I don't want to be partisan. But I don't understand why any president would make a decision to put more coal dust into our lakes and rivers. I don't understand why a president would make the decision to lift the restrictions on tailpipe emissions, which is how we cleaned up our cities in America. That's happening. So the wrong constituencies are being served, folks, and the only way to come back from that is vote.
Right.
Vote, vote.
Right.
I'm not saying go vote many times. I just mean
once. We got you one time. Okay. Ma'am.
Secretary Kerry, I worked on your presidential campaign in San Antonio.
Thank
it's an
you
honor.
very much.
I found Going Upriver, your documentary, to be one of the best on Vietnam protest and the whole question of patriotism. What do you think of our cultural war now on the whole subject of what it means to be patriotic? And do you think it had its roots in the Vietnam War?
That's a really interesting question as to where it has its roots. No, I don't think its roots are in the, as I think about it, because we had the Red Scare in the 1900s. We've had a sad tradition of demagogues using a narrow definition of patriotism to their political advantage and avail. And what I've learned is patriotism comes in many, many forms. We veterans who came back from Vietnam, and we've been borne out. You know, I know some, in all fairness, I know some vets are still angry, those of us who protested the war. That's part of what you saw. That's really largely where the 2004 Swift Boat stuff, they were angry.
They never forgave you.
Never forgave people who stood up and spoke against the war. But the fact is, we were right. Robert McNamara, Defense Secretary during the war, wrote in his memoirs that they knew the war was not going to end well, that it was wrong. And you know, he went away into the private sector and never said it publicly. And Lyndon Johnson bravely went ahead to try to make it happen, and then the country rebelled against that. But I'm proud of what we did as veterans who came back, because not only did we speak out about the war, we were the principal ones who moved heaven and earth to take care of our fellow vets. We created the first rap groups with Dr. Robert Lifton at Yale that became the whole PTSD definition and began to make it mainstream so vets could talk through the challenges they came back with. We had too little money going to people for books for school. The allowances were lower than the allowances of previous generations of veterans. We had to fight to raise them. We had to fight to get the Agent Orange presumption so people were treated at the VA. We had to fight to get a memorial to veterans. That didn't come from the government. Veterans built the Vietnam Memorial in Washington under the leadership of a sergeant, Jan Scruggs, a friend of mine. So, you know, I'm proud that we kept faith with our fellow vets. We did what I set out to do in this book, which is live every day extra is the right way. And to us, patriotism was telling the truth about the war. Patriotism was telling the truth to the American people so that we could hopefully end it sooner. And I believe, I really believe this, we saved lives that might have been lost in an endless pursuit had we not stood up and voiced.
So if you, Mr. Secretary, thank you for your great question. If you,
I have to say, on that note, I think American history would have been different if you had been elected president. Thank you.
Well,
if you breadcrumb what you just said forward, we're now relitigating the concept of patriotism in the form of professional athletes and college athletes taking a knee to protest peacefully against the treatment of African Americans by law enforcement. This is a very controversial topic. It's at the center of many political races, including one right here in Texas.
We used to constantly have somebody bring up an amendment in the Senate for a constitutional amendment to protect the flag. And it was a way of trying to drive a wedge between people as to whether you're really protecting the Constitution or you're protecting the country and the flag. And what I would argue is that the flag is the symbol of our country. It's not the country, it's not the Constitution, it's the symbol. And we carry the flag proudly. I mean, I love the flag. I have my flag from my boat sitting up in my office. And I had it in the Secretary of State's office. But you know what? We need to defend what the country is really about. And the country is represented by the flag, but if somebody wants to be stupid and burn a flag and be really stupid and insulting in doing it, you can arrest them for disorderly conduct. You can, there are plenty of challenges to that.
Yeah.
But I think we are stronger as a nation when we protect the Constitution itself.
Right.
And I don't think you should amend it at every single
So you think there
turn
is
corner.
nothing unpatriotic about athletes taking a knee in this context?
I think it depends entirely. I mean, for the reasons that they're articulating, there's nothing unpatriotic. It's a form of protest. People are allowed to protest. That is why people fought.
That's
That is
America.
exactly what Beto O'Rourke laid out in his statement about why people,
Dropping a Beto reference in Austin. Mr. Secretary, crafty of you. That's good. As I said, it is a home game. Sir.
Mr. Secretary, thank you for your time. The last time the House of Representatives increased its size by statute was in the 1920s. A great arithmetic imbalance occurs because it hasn't increased since then. In other words, if you had 650 congressmen, California would have 80 times as many votes as Wyoming, and there would be an electoral college rebalancing. Also, there would be more elected politicians, more political jobs. Why can't we sell this
Do we need
as the simplest idea?
bigger government?
As the simplest idea
well, I'm
for
gonna
democratization.
surprise you with my answer. If all things were working well, and we had bipartisanship, and people were able to come together without the kind of divisiveness that we have today, I think that that the Electoral College has this secret benefit that it gives a voice to many parts of our country that if you only did it by population would never have a voice. And I think you actually hold the nation together if you have the proper leadership that's listening to everybody, working with everybody, pulling them together to solve problems, not create them. And I learned this when I was running. I mean, you know, if the East Coast and the West Coast, which are where most people are going to live, that's going to be the bulk of America's population. And if they're making every single decision, you're going to have a problem from everything in between. But if the people in between believe they count and that a presidential candidate's got to come and listen to them and they'll be part of the process and they actually get weighed in, I think we can make it work. I personally believe that.
But you know, Mr. Secretary, one problem of late has been, and I know we need to wrap here, is that gerrymandering has made it so that even though parts of the country still contribute to the overall conversation about who leads us, non-competitive elections mean that candidates don't even come to places.
But I
where
said
they
that.
know-
But
yeah.
that's a different problem. Well, they come to places in those states, but the problem has been that legislatures, and it's not been exclusively Republican. Democrats have done this too.
When
historically.
Texas was run by Democrats, they did gerrymandered.
they
Now
do it.
Republicans do it.
And
That's right.
it's got to be outlawed. There's got to be a way to frame. I think the Supreme Court tried to wrestle with this a bit, and we still need to rectify it.
Right.
But we ought to have nonpartisan, the mathematical formula structure by which you create fair districts and fair representation, and let people go out and have a contest of ideas.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate. We unfortunately we need to go, and I'm sorry. We've got to stop right now. Unfortunately, I'm sorry. I apologize. On the subject of a contest of ideas, I look forward to having one with you in about 2 hours downtown. Please give Secretary John Kerry a big hand.